Hello, and welcome to the Cook Memorial Public Library Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Goss. It's become tradition here on the podcast to have Becky King, our audiovisual librarian, talk about Sunday night's Academy Awards ceremony and celebrate the year in film. This year, there was no shortage of surprises, but also no shortage of great movies to talk about. And as a huge fan of movies myself, I always have so much fun talking with Becky about what we've seen and what we still need to see. So I won't make you wait any longer. I'm actually going to go ahead and jump right over to my conversation with Becky about the 91st Academy Awards and the movies of 2018. All right, Becky, welcome back to the Cook Memorial Public Library Podcast.
Thanks. It's always fun.
You know, this has been a tradition at this point. I think this might actually be our third time doing this.
Or fourth.
Or fourth?
Yeah,
wow.
I think so.
Yeah, so it's hard to even imagine we've done the podcast for this long.
Yeah.
But I think it's been something we've done ever since the first few episodes of the podcast. But It's
Right.
always fun to have you come on and just talk movies a bit. And we've actually, over the last year, been able to talk a lot more about movies with our cinema club.
Yeah, it's been a good time.
So it's been good. So let's maybe just start, broadly speaking, what did you think of just the show last night?
It was interesting, right, with the no host concept and things
Didn't
like
miss
that.
it.
I didn't either.
It
It seemed to move along a little bit better, although I don't think they actually shortened it at all.
No,
that was the goal for not having a host.
Going till about 10:30 still.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But I felt like it moved along just fine. I didn't feel like it was missing anything.
Yeah, I don't think anybody missed it.
I think we'll spend most of our time talking about the movies, but did you have any, moments of the show that you enjoyed? Which is kind of
Favorites?
harder when you don't have a host to have actual show moments.
Right,
You know?
yeah, it is. Although I guess it would break down to winners. I mean, I thought Olivia Colman's speech was awesome.
Yeah, it was
just
the best.
so entertaining.
It was,
She's so
yes.
honest.
Yeah, she should get an Oscar for the speech.
I know, right? Yeah. So that was my highlight, but I'm a big fan of her, so I was thrilled to see her win.
I didn't even see A Star Is Born, but I got to say I was touched by that performance.
I know, they did a great
Bradley
job.
Cooper, Lady Gaga performance.
He had to have been so nervous. That is not his wheelhouse. I mean, for her, it's probably like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got another show.
Right, yeah. For him to sing live on an occasion like that, I'm sure was tough, but they did. They did a good job.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are talking about the biggest upset being the big award.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people were predicting Green Book to win the Best Picture award.
Right.
And this is the first time for me that I can remember that I have not seen the movie that won Best Picture. I can't even remember the last time that was the case.
Yeah, I did see it. I saw it in the theaters a few months ago, not too long after it came out. I didn't expect it to win either. I really thought Roma might be the contender, or Black Panther even. And you just wonder how, with so many worthy movies this year, just how the voting process maybe just played out.
Sure.
In an unusual way.
Mm-hmm. What would have been your personal pick of the choices? And I think we'll later get on into just the year in movies and maybe talk about some stuff that wasn't even in the award show. But if you had to pick of the choices, what would have been your pick?
I thought Roma was pretty much a shoo-in.
Yeah.
I really did. Although I did have other favorites. So if, I couldn't even make up my mind, which is really interesting. So I think Roma or, like I said, Black Panther.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Roma was what I was rooting for, and at least it got the foreign film award.
It won a lot of prestigious awards,
and Cuarón got the director award.
And cinematography.
Yes, yeah. It's a different movie in the way it was even just released. So, being a Netflix movie right now, the only way to even watch that movie through the library would be to check out one of our Roku devices that has Netflix on it. Which obviously have a little bit of a wait list, so you might be waiting a little bit. And I'm assuming at some point Netflix will hopefully release this on DVD, Blu-ray, because they have with other movies, right?
Yeah, although they tend to hold on to them for quite some time before they do it, especially a project like that, I can imagine. It would be interesting, too, with Roma, because it was nominated in both the Best Foreign Film and Best Picture categories, if that worked against it maybe somehow.
Maybe split some votes for some Academy members.
Right, and also the whole Netflix connection. I think there's still some controversy as to whether, like, old Hollywood thinks that's a legitimate form of distribution.
Yep. Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know that, obviously, and no one could know. But you wonder.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with even something like Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which didn't have a whole lot of nominations, I believe, just for Best Song. But still, you wonder, because that's a Coen Brothers movie, and you would wonder if it had a more traditional release, if it had gotten maybe a little bit more attention from the Academy.
And same thing for Mudbound last year.
Yeah.
Great movie. It garnered a supporting actress nomination last year, but didn't get a lot of attention otherwise. And still, that one's still not out, for the general public. So.
So we guess we really don't know if we're going to be getting these on DVD, Blu-ray, at the moment for the library.
Yeah, you have to wonder if how acceptable or accepted that model of distribution is still.
So why don't we maybe talk about some of the movies or maybe the actors or actresses in those movies that received awards that people could, if they haven't seen them, that they could actually get through the library or get on a wait list to start to see and fill in those holes.
I mean, the good news is actually, with the exception of Roma, I think almost everything in the major categories, that was nominated is available. You can place a hold on it. We either already have it, it's coming out soon, or it's on order and will be out in the March-April timeframe.
Okay.
Release dates have been announced at this point for almost all the films. So you'll find them in our catalog, including, documentaries and most of the foreign films. The wait lists are long right now. We do order lots of copies of these movies, so don't let that dissuade you from putting your name on the list. But we monitor the number of holds on individual titles. We order more as necessary, so you'll get it. Foreign language films, again, other than I think Never Look Away may be coming soon. I don't know if that one's on order quite yet, but other than Roma, they're on order. So
okay,
other than Cold War, not yet either, which was one of my favorites.
Yeah, and that was actually up for foreign film, but also I believe
Best Director.
So that even had a little bit more crossover as well.
Right, that's a great movie.
So that's a high recommendation from you for that one.
Yeah, and that actually, surprisingly, I think it's going to be on Netflix starting in March.
Cold War.
So yeah, I think so.
So is Into the Spider-Verse, is that one?
Should be on order. Yeah.
Great. I saw that with my boys.
You loved it.
And I loved it. I loved that movie. I thought it was great. I thought it was one of my favorites of the year, animated or not. A great movie. And even if the superhero thing kind of isn't your cup of tea, it's not mine either. So have that be something to keep in mind. I don't think you need to love superheroes or comics to find something enjoyable in Into the Spider-Verse.
That's great.
Let's talk about performances. Did you feel like the Academy did a good job with the performances and the winners?
I think other than the Olivia Colman upset, I think Glenn Close is probably still wondering what the heck happened.
Although Olivia Colman was so good in that movie.
I know. She was really awesome. She made the movie. I mean, I think all three female leads in that movie had kind of probably equal screen time, but she was the movie.
Yeah.
She just kind of made it. So I was fine with her getting the leading actress nomination. I'm thrilled she won. So I was happy about that. Melissa McCarthy and Can You Ever Forgive Me was really interesting. It was a smaller movie, a darker movie, so I don't know that she really stood a chance, but that was a great performance.
Little outside her wheelhouse maybe?
Definitely very dramatic performance. She was very, just let's say not a very likable person. The lead actor category I thought was really interesting this year. Again, I don't think there were any clear frontrunners. Rami Malek was kind of winning everything along the way, but I think he certainly gave the highest energy performance of the year. So he took a chance and obviously was well rewarded. I really like Willem Dafoe.
Yeah,
he is so good in everything that he does, and he was great in At Eternity's Gate. It's a really small movie.
Playing Van Gogh.
Yeah, and he was excellent.
Now, do we have If Beale Street Could Talk?
That's on order as well.
Okay.
It hasn't been released quite yet. That's the only one I didn't get a chance to see.
And I'm looking forward to seeing it. I really like what Barry Jenkins does.
Oh, yeah.
I really like James Baldwin as a writer. So, I'm looking for, and Regina King, so she picked up the supporting actress.
Right.
So I'm assuming it's an amazing performance.
I'm sure it is. And it sounds like they really did justice to the work that, Baldwin did. So it should be really exciting to see. But I'm disappointed I did not make it to the theaters to see that one. But it is coming out in a month or so, and it's on order.
All right.
How about Spike Lee finally winning? That was a big moment. And that was a great movie.
BlacKkKlansman won the adapted screenplay.
Right.
And I really liked how in his speech he was able to throw in the Do the Right Thing references. I mean, not trying to be hyperbolic here, I really do think that movie might be one of the most important American movies of all time.
Right.
And it didn't even get nominated.
I know.
That year.
I know.
So for him to be able to get up there and just mention it on that stage and finally get some recognition from the Academy was nice. It felt good to see that.
Right. And just another award that was long overdue.
Yes.
Yeah. And he earned it. It wasn't like, oh, here, we finally give you your
not
Oscar.
a conciliatory thing.
Right.
Yeah. No, it was a great movie.
Totally
it was just as provocative and challenging and everything you want from a Spike Lee movie.
And entertaining.
Yes.
It was just a great movie.
Yeah. Surprisingly funny.
Yeah.
And So I feel like we kind of hit a lot of the highlights. Other than that, I feel like it was definitely an Oscars telecast.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
pretty typical. Otherwise,
pretty typical. But why don't we maybe just talk a little bit more about the year 2018 in film, because I know we talk movies all the time, and there were a lot of movies that we liked and loved even that didn't even get much attention.
Right. I know there's one that we totally, or two probably, that we totally agree on. I had a movie that I loved. I saw it at the theater during the summer, and it was called Leave No Trace.
Okay. It's
been out for a while on DVD, so you can easily get it at the library at this point. It was starred Ben Foster and a young actress by the name of Thomasin McKenzie, and this was her first film based on a true story. It was filmed in Portland, and it's about a father and a daughter who kind of live off the grid in a public park, like a huge public park in Portland. And he is a veteran, obviously has some PTSD type issues. He doesn't want to be among others and living in society. And he and his daughter just live out in the woods, basically. At some point, they, run into the fact that they're discovered and they need to kind of, assimilate back into society. And he really struggles with that. It's really her story as much as his, because she finds out that there's a lot of good things associated with being around other people. Really great movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
Now that is, it was directed by Deborah Granick, who did Winter's Bone a couple years ago, which really kind of put Jennifer Lawrence on the map.
I mean, she spots talent, I tell you. So that was Jennifer Lawrence's feature film debut. This is Thomasin McKenzie's, and you may see her. She was excellent.
With a lot of the kind of Me Too stuff, I find myself trying to seek out women filmmakers and trying to support that. So this is a good movie as an example of that. The other one that I think we both would definitely recommend from the year, also directed by a woman, Chloe Zhao, and that's The Writer, which I was actually kind of surprised didn't get any nominations, not even cinematography.
I thought cinematography for sure, or even screenplay.
But
and it did great. I mean, it got a lot of recognition at film festivals and things like that. So you think it would have been on Academy members, at least on their radar a little bit, but obviously just didn't generate enough love.
So at least we'll put a big plug for that movie. It's a fantastic film. That's The Rider, R-I-D-E-R, not writer.
Right. Again, based on a true story.
And having to do with a person who's injured in a rodeo accident and just coming to terms with that.
And what his life will mean after that.
Yeah. Any other movies that you'd want to mention from the year? That
I think you and I both really enjoyed 8th Grade with a young actress again, who it'll be interesting to see what her career brings. I think she was only 14-ish when she made it.
Elsie Fisher.
Right.
Great performance.
Oh, my
her.
goodness, yeah.
And I think Bo Burnham, who directed and wrote the movie, it just has a very... it's almost painful how accurate his, how much he takes you back to the feelings.
No one wants to relive middle school, right?
No one does.
And this is a good example why, but so sensitively done.
Really it's got a good heart to it.
It's not a gross out middle school movie. It is just so sensitive. I loved it.
On my end, the ones that I would want to highlight. First Reformed, I was kind of upset that Ethan Hawke didn't get nominated for Best Actor.
That was another worthy performance.
On that one. I mean, but that one is not for everyone. But I think if you want kind of a little bit of a slower burn movie that deals with a lot of heavier themes, even getting into like theology and politics, but smaller. I mean, it's really just about this minister who is given this very small parish, and I'm not going to give away too much. There's not really much to give away.
There's not,
but it just kind of goes out there. And Paul Schrader, who has written Taxi Driver, and he's worked with Scorsese a lot. He co-wrote Last Temptation of Christ, and he likes to deal with these heavy themes. This is a movie that he's directing as well as writing.
It is different. So, watch it. It's worth seeing for Ethan Hawke's performance alone. He's excellent. But
and maybe something that's a little bit more accessible to the mainstream, I'll put it. I just recently watched Steve McQueen's Widows. Came out in the summer, and it's just a really well done heist movie that also deals with a lot of issues having to do with even it's a Chicago movie, like Chicago through and through, and it even gets into some of the more political Chicago issues. It deals with race. It's also got some great performances, and it's
Viola Davis, great cast,
great. And it was co-written by Gillian Flynn, who wrote Gone Girl. So.
Lots of good stuff out there.
Yeah. So I think no matter what you're looking for in movies, you'll find something from last year.
It was a pretty decent year.
Yeah. And then just kind of looking at my favorite movies of the year, I really loved Minding the Gap, which is also another semi-local documentary, Rockford. So close. I didn't have a lot of expectations because it's about skating and skater kids in Rockford, and not the kind of documentary that I would have initially been interested in. But,
right. And it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Focuses on a group of friends, primarily 3 friends, and what was it filmed over, like 12 years or something like that?
Yes, a long period of time, and one of the kids is, well, I shouldn't say kid, because he's not a kid by the end of the movie. But yeah, he is the filmmaker. Bing Liu is his name. So he's one of the skaters, and he's just this. But he also carried around a camera.
His own story is so compelling.
Really, it becomes so much more than just a skating documentary.
It does.
It can be heavy, and I kind of think what happens is the skating scenes become sort of places for you to rest.
Yeah, right. It is a release.
So you almost I didn't think I wanted a skating documentary, but I could really just use some skating scenes right now.
Right,
to
break the
lighten
tension
mood.
a little bit. Yeah, it was really well done.
That's what you want in good documentaries, where you really feel like you're seeing life on screen.
Right. It was actually a great year for documentaries. I mean, documentaries did really well at the box office this year, which isn't always the case. So the Fred Rogers documentary, I think a lot of people were surprised didn't get nominated.
Yeah.
There's one that you and I talked about earlier in the year called 3 Identical Strangers.
Right.
The RBG documentary did really well at the box office, so that was fun. And none of those won. It was Free Solo. So,
right.
What a great year. I was going to touch on we talked a little bit about the foreign language films, and I think in any year that Roma wasn't around, Cold War would have been a heavier contender. Such a good movie. It's just about a kind of a doomed couple. Takes place in both Poland and Paris in the years immediately following World War II and into the start of the Cold War. Just a great film. I know it's hard to talk about because it's not available right now. Check it out on Netflix when you get a chance. Just so good. But also another film called Shoplifters. It's a Japanese film. Really good as well. It's 2 hours, and the first hour and a half he kind of meanders along, and it's about a family. It's a grandmother, a couple, one of the wife's younger sister, and then a son, and then they find this little girl who appears to be abused, and they kind of take her under their wing. But they really live on the fringe of society. Their jobs are a little hit or miss, and they shoplift. And then they also teach the kids to do that, which is kind of the heart-rending part. Again, it meanders along for an hour and a half. You wonder where it's going, and then all of a sudden the last half hour is just full.
Brings it all together.
It just something happens, and there's a crisis, and boy, is it moving at the end. You won't forget it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I feel like we definitely gave listeners of the podcast a good watch list to go off of. So maybe we should just wrap it up by talking about all the different ways we have at the library for people to catch up on these movies.
Okay, great. So obviously we still have our weekly movie matinees at the library. And this is a great time of year because we do have a lot of these nominated films coming in.
Yeah.
So Thursday afternoons at 1:30 at Cook Park. Friday afternoons at 1:30 at Aspen. That's always a great deal.
Yeah. And make sure you check the calendar, or not the calendar, or check the flyers or calendars, or even just call us if you need to, because there's a few days next month in March where we're not able to show the screenings at Cook Park, but we are showing them at Aspen.
Right.
So.
And always call if you have any question. And also, we usually put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
That information is on Facebook every week. So, and then obviously DVD, Blu-ray. So again, most of the stuff is already on order or in-house. A lot of the soundtracks are on Hoopla, or we have them in physical format at the library. Some great movie music this year. Oh, yeah.
The Black Panther soundtrack is incredible.
Star is Born.
Yeah.
I mean, hard to go wrong this year.
Yeah.
So,
and then I'll also mention, if it was one of those movies that really is only available on Netflix, we do have the Rokus that we circulate. You might have to get your name on a wait list, but if you check one of those out, you do have full access to Netflix on that. And then you also, through that Roku device, can go into the the Vudu app where we put in a lot of the digital codes for the movies that we order. So it's a way to kind of have a collection of some of these movies. Well, Becky, I just wanted to thank you for once again coming onto the podcast and just talking movies.
Yep, it's always fun. Thanks.
Yeah, and we'll have to get to, we haven't done one of our bonus features segments for a while, so we'll have to get you on soon and catch up on that.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so we just gave you several ways to catch up on some of the movies you may have missed over the last year. If you want to search the catalog to see what's available and get your name on some of those hold lists, head over to our website, cooklib.org, to look for anything we mentioned. While you're on our website, take a moment to check out Shelf Life. That's the library's blog, where we write regularly about books we recommend, genealogy, local history, new library services, and so much more. That blog can be found at shelflife.cooklib.org. If you would ever like to reach out and contact us, you can do that anytime. Talk to us on Twitter at Cook Library, or you can send us an email. Send those messages to webmaster@cooklib.org. And if you enjoyed this episode, please spread the word by sharing it with others and let them know that they can catch any of our future episodes by subscribing in Apple Podcasts or anywhere they like to get their podcasts. We will be back soon, but until then, keep reading, keep watching, and keep listening.